Welcome to Beyond Sundays, a podcast from two friends trying to follow Jesus more closely. Odds are you won't always agree with us and we'll stumble along the way, but we do promise to be open and honest all the way through. I'm Hannah, here with Matt, and we do have a new website you can use to keep all of our show links and socials in one place. So check out beyondsundays.pod.com. We're grateful for everyone that's listening, and we really, really feel that we have the best listeners around. If you're new to us, you can find us on Apple and on Spotify, and you can also find us on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and we're excited for what we have today.
We are. Yes, seriously. Thank you for listening. Life is busy, and the fact that people plug this in their ears or in their car, it's just so awesome. It really is.
It is awesome. Makes me feel a little special, you know?
You should feel special, girl.
Yeah, today is the first time I think on the podcast that I have kept real outside clothes on, not just I have sweatpants on, but I have a nicer
Ooh, we're gonna get
on.
professional, Hannah. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought, I don't know if I wanted the vibe or I don't know something different today, but I do have a story for you.
Okay,
I have
good.
to tell you.
Yeah.
But before I tell it, I have to start with this. So you and I are both the eldest. We're the oldest children.
Yes.
I think there's something that comes along with that.
It's God's will. God orders it. He puts the best one first. That's just how it goes. I don't know.
It really is. And I feel, I hope my siblings all hear that, because that is the truth. But you almost take on this second, you're not the parent at all, but you kind of take on the second parent role.
Sure. You're the first to bust through every wall. Yeah.
Everything. And so everything, I tease my dad, primarily my dad, and more so than my mom, but I tease him all the time because he's like, you guys are just all different. That's why we parent different. And then Ross and I look at the things we would have gotten our butts spanked for, and the things Molly and Drew, it's just whatever. It's just different times.
Yeah.
So with all of that, there are things that my youngest sister does that absolutely kill me. I have always been the person that I just want to go do things. And when I want to do it, I'm going to set it up. When I went to school, when I went to college, I did it all, put it all together, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And I say this in a funny way. My sister has me or my mom calling doctor's appointments. She's I'm going to be 20.
Oh.
She is one of the funniest humans I've ever met in my life.
Yes, she is.
But she's just dumb, in a funny way. Everything she does is just hilarious because she's so moody and bratty. Well, she watches our cats anytime.
Man, this is a tough 3 minutes for your sister here.
I say this in the best way. She is my favorite. Besides my husband, she is my favorite person in the world. She is just hilarious. Everything she says. So she watches our cats while we're gone. And so we came home the other night, and we came home from Chicago, and she was going to go home and just take a shower. I don't know why she wasn't going to take one here, but she went to take a shower, and she was planning to come back.
Okay.
Well, I lay my phone down as I typically do.
That makes a tremendous amount of sense, but keep going.
That's Molly. And let's keep in mind too, she's just beautiful. So she's got that youngest sister. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And then it's just beautiful, but then it's goofy and she's just a weird human being. So she leaves, and I lay my phone down per usual and don't realize somebody texted or called, but I see her lights still in my yard. So I pick up my phone, and I have 4 missed calls from her.
Oh no.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, did she hit an animal outside?
Oh no.
So I keep trying to call her back, and her phone's doing something it's disconnected or something weird. So I go outside, and you've seen my house.
Yep.
Those that have not, we do live in the country, and there's not something at the end of the road. There are not lights at the end of the road, but
it just dumps out onto a side road, and you just go on with your life. Yeah.
If you can drive, you know how to drive. So I am kind of parked, and Molly, I'll save that part. I get out there, and she is nowhere near the road. She's not in the road. She is probably 5 foot over into the grass, and we have this big bush tree thing. Mm-hmm. She is so close up against that, she can't get out of her car. Her door is stuck closed. And so she rolls down her window, and she's like, I thought I was on the road. And I said, Molly, what do you mean you thought you were on the road? You're stuck in the bush. And she's like, well, your car was in the way. Molly, my car was in the driveway. There's a whole other section for
Look, the road, the bush. I mean, it's basically the same thing.
so, well, she can't get out of the car to switch me spots so I can try to get her out.
Oh my.
So Liam and I are out there. We're trying to see what we can do, and it, my dad ends up coming. And granted, at this point, my Molly said my dad's gonna be. He's gonna be like, why did you say this? But my sister calls my dad and is like, Dad, I'm stuck again, and because this stuff has happened. This is not
Again.
uncommon. Like
Yeah.
she's just not the best driver,
Yeah, this is so
and
great.
this is not uncommon. And she says, I'm stuck again. And his whole tone changes. He's like, I'll be down there in a second. So he comes down, he's got his boots and his shorts and his Rome grade school shirt on.
Well, it's just frustrating. Like, what are you gonna
Yes.
do?
Yes.
Yeah.
So me and Liam and my dad have to push her out. She's like, what am I supposed to do? Hit the gas, Molly. Well,
Oh.
eventually we get her up enough where she can open the door.
Oh.
She has to close it again, closes the whole branch in her door. Like
Oh.
this is just Molly. And so my dad gets in, she gets out of the car. Eventually he's able to get
Okay.
in. She gets
Good.
out of the car.
Good.
And my dad's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just watching. He's like, go push. And she's like, who, me? Yes, you
Yes, you
go
drove
push the
into a
car.
bush. Go
You
push the
drove
car.
into this bush. I have all of these beautiful pictures of her. Just, I mean,
Oh, that's so
right
great.
up against. So eventually we get her out.
Mhm.
But now I have this massive rut. I mean, it's not like, oh,
Oh.
there's this little bitty rut in my yard.
Oh.
A massive rut. And she just drives home and is gone and never says a word about it. So that's
Just plant some flowers in it. Plant some mollies in it or something. Is there like a flower that's called
there
a
may
molly or something?
be, but I'm telling you,
I think
it
that's a
is.
drug too. Maybe this is a bad idea. Just do something to memorialize. Just do something to memorialize Molly's place in your yard.
I think the rut is enough for that.
You're right. You're
I'm
right. You're
just
right.
like, she has a shirt that has a hamster on it that's driving a Barbie car, and all it says is can't drive. And that's her life. Like, those memes where like, you may not have seen these, but these memes, they drive up on a curb
Uh-huh.
and the girl just goes, oopsies. That's Molly. She just drives off. So that has been my life
Just
the
a
last
hamster.
week.
That's
She's just
nice. I like
she's just
that.
a hamster. You know what? I'm glad that you like that because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. And so with that story,
Yeah.
we are going to move into our actual topic for today. Those of you that know Molly, make sure you let her know
Yeah.
that she's not a great driver and just watch out. Watch out on the roads for that.
Okay, I just want to say this real quick about Molly. Shouts to Molly for blowing up all of our social media. She likes
She's so
everything. She
good.
shares
She's
it
so
all.
good.
She's like number one Beyond Sunday super fan. So props to Molly. Sorry you can't drive, girl, but we do love you at the Beyond Sundays
Oh my
podcast.
gosh. We absolutely love Molly.
We do.
And you know what? If you ever get the chance or if you know her, you'll know she's hilarious, but she's
Yeah.
not a good driver and we all understand it.
Oopsies.
Oopsies. Yes. So today we are going to talk about fasting. Super excited for this topic because I think you used this word, you used it like this. It's kind of a stock answer to everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Like what are you supposed to do to become a better Christian?
I think it's a stock answer that nobody actually does.
That's my thing.
Nobody does this.
And then we're like, God, why am I like this? And it's like, well, you don't pray and you don't fast.
Well, there's three stock answers. There's like read my Bible, pray, and fast. I do think people read their Bible. I think people pray. Do I think people fast? I'll be honest. I really don't think people fast that much. And it's just like this huge tool sitting on the table that we just kind of don't use.
So
do you think that's not fair?
No, I think it's totally fair because I've got to be honest. I mean, I'm a youth pastor and a worship leader, and fasting's the thing I struggle with more than anything else. When I was a kid, I was great. But it just shows a discipline issue. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like it reflects. So I do think we need to start with what is fasting and where do we see it, not just in the Christian world, but where do we see it around the world? So for me, when I think of a definition of fasting, I think abstaining from something for just an extended period of time. That's my thought or definition. Do you have anything you'd add to that?
No, I think so too. I mean, obviously you're talking around the world, but specifically in the Bible, if we just draw it in there for a second, the only biblical things that I can find from fasting do have to do with food. I know that sometimes people will do like a social media fast or this fast, or I don't think there's any issue at all doing those things, but I do think there's a special power with food, and there's a specific reason why that's biblically presented as the fasting 100%.
Method. And I do think that I want to talk as we go throughout this more about that specifically, like what else it can look like, but what the Bible says about it. We do see it though I found this interesting, but medically for blood test, I mean, you have to
Mm.
fast before that in order for your levels to be normal and to not be influenced. So we see it medically. There's things like intermittent fasting
Yep.
where they won't eat for so long,
Yep.
supposed to help your body in a certain way. And it's actually practiced by most religions,
It is.
not just Christianity.
Yep.
And I was reading in a book earlier that one of the founding, it's not a founding father, but like the
I can't wait for
founding
this. Go
founding
ahead,
father of
Molly.
medicine. You can see why we're sisters. Whatever, the founding guy of medicine or whatever. He talked.
Hippocrates?
Yes, I'm glad you
Oh,
said that because I was trying to say that to Liam today, and I was trying to say the guy's name, and I was like, "Well, I wanted to tell you all the
high
different
school
things."
history teacher. I got you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got you.
yeah.
I got you.
But he even talked about fasting and the
Yeah,
benefits of that,
sure.
of how it clears your body out. So we have this understanding that it obviously we hear about it in Christianity,
Yeah,
but it goes so much further than that. It's
it
not
does.
just Christianity.
Yeah, when I we share a note together that we kind of use to like prep for these episodes, and the fact that you wrote in there that like I didn't think about it medically, and then you were like it establishes a baseline, and I was like, man, that's exactly what it does spiritually. It is that
Yeah.
it helps establish it like tears you down
Yeah.
to the base of who you are, and like kind of really shows what's going on with you. And I was like, wow, that really is good.
100%.
I just was on a field trip a couple of weeks ago with some of my
Yeah.
kids, and so I was just going to say something about like other religions fasting.
Hmm.
Islam in particular, they've got a whole month called Ramadan where they don't
Yes.
eat from sun up to sundown. And so I had one boy on this field trip and 11 girls, and they were staying in hotel rooms. And so this one boy had to stay with kids from a different school because they weren't just going to
Oh,
give him his own hotel room together. So he goes into this hotel room and he meets this kid, and obviously I'll keep their names out of this, but this kid he's Muslim, and they're just kind of like talking back and forth.
hmm.
And then this kid's like, yeah, I just stay inside my room and I pirate music all the time. And so I guess they talked about pirated music or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh.
But this kid got up at 4 a.m. to go down and had a space in the hotel for these Muslim kids to pray and fast for
Yeah.
Ramadan. And I was like, wow, that this kid's in high school, he's on a field trip, and they're still doing that. Really says something for that. That's pretty
Well,
awesome, really.
it does because shout out to anybody that works in District 80 when you have Orange Chicken Day and it's the day you're supposed to fast.
You got to get that orange
I
chicken.
bumped that fast back a couple days. You know what I mean? Like that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you've got other religions that are they're so serious about it.
Yes,
That
yes.
should convict.
It, it
It does.
it's just
Me.
because it pushes you so hard to do something that not 1 inch of you wants to do this thing, and that's the power in
Mhm.
it. It's pushing you.
Absolutely. And I read something else too that you cannot find a major biblical character in the Bible that did not fast.
Interesting.
So I mean, that says a lot in and of itself. I do have some scriptures I want to reference.
Yeah.
One of those being 1 Kings 19:8.
Okay.
You have Elijah fasted for 40 days. Now, I found this interesting, and I actually looked up several sources to make sure that I was correct in this. But we talked about the story where he's running from Jezebel. So I think this is right after the guys that he's with and they all die, that they had the fire.
Where I
Prophets.
drafted it. Yes, I drafted
Yes,
it, and
which is
when I won that draft, right? Yeah, it's where the
yeah, you
prophets of
don't need to
Baal
bring
got
that up.
killed and all that good kind of stuff. Have we done
Yes,
this on the podcast? Quick side hot take: Jezebel, great name, great sounding name.
you have
Love the
said
name.
that. I think I'm traumatized as a woman because that was the name that people would say if you weren't living right. You're a
Yeah,
Jezebel.
no. I know. It's just that character is so bad in the Bible, you could never name your daughter that. But I've always
Never.
just been like, God, that name sounds so awesome.
I would like to say I agree, but I don't.
Okay,
I
that's
don't.
fine. To
You
each
know,
their own.
I'm gonna let you like that name.
Sure.
I'm gonna let you like that name.
Okay, just go put some ruts in your yard.
But in this story, you have Elijah who has just had this experience that was so
Yes.
great, and then he's running from Jezebel.
Mhm.
He gets himself in a cave. That's when God tells him to go to sleep and to eat. Tells him
Mhm.
that, and then sends him off after that for 40 days. The Bible, what was interesting to me is the Bible doesn't specifically say that he did not eat for 40 days. It doesn't
True.
list it out, but everything that goes back and references it, he did not eat in between that time. And when
Yeah.
he gets to his destination, that's whenever God speaks to him in the still small voice.
Yes.
So there had to be that clarity. So we see that in Elijah's story. But then you go on to Jesus,
Yeah.
who fasted for 40 days. And that was pre temptation, correct?
Correct. He was out in the wilderness. He did the fasting for the 40 days, and Satan showed up at the end of the 40 days.
So this is a question that I have for you because we've been doing Revelation and we're all about
Yeah.
these numbers. I do think there's some significance to the 40 and 40. Like,
Okay.
do you think there's significance to that 40 and 40 days?
Well, I don't know if there's anything specific, like the number 12 in Revelation, or, there's certain numbers that just kind of blink and blare. But I will say this: when Elijah is headed toward the mountain he's headed towards is actually Mount Sinai. And that's where
Oh,
Moses received the words from God. And Moses, when he was receiving those words, he was up on Mount Sinai for, you guessed it, folks, 40 days
40 days.
without food and water in God's presence. And so I kind of feel like that 40 days sort of thing is like, it's telling you, it's like a preparatory period, right?
Okay.
Elijah is getting ready to hear from God. Jesus is getting ready to hear, start his ministry. And so this 40 days, I don't know that I would recommend somebody necessarily start fasting and do 40 days right away. I think you could end
Yeah.
up in the hospital.
Yep.
But, if you're an experienced faster, I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world to do, because these guys did it and they had powerful ministries with God. So I take that 40 days less as, we need to go 5.5 weeks without food, and more of just like a preparatory period in your life to be able to hear from God.
Yeah, because all of those moments that came after the 40 days, the outcomes were extreme. Obviously, the still small voice you may not say is extreme, but something else I read too that was so interesting, what Elijah did and what he received in that still small voice after the 40 days carried on beyond him. It was
Yeah.
able to set something up that went on way beyond him. So that fast clearly gave him room to receive something that would live beyond what he was going to do, which I find phenomenal. And like you said, it's the start to Jesus's ministry.
Yeah. Well, if you pull back in that medical thing you said that really just like knocked me flat, for Elijah, it, like, I think in some ways it like took him down to the baseline of his life where he was able to hear the still small voice. And
Yeah.
what that makes me think is, I mean, think about what just happened. He's killed these prophets. He's getting chased by the queen. There's a lot going on in this guy's life,
Yeah.
right? And so he's got to have a space where everything quiets down and he stops focusing on these things outside so they can hear that still small voice. And I think in part, fasting makes us do that, right? You like
Oh,
return to
yeah.
your roots of what's going on with you and God.
100%. I had read something too today. It was giving more detail on on fasting and how it, not even spiritually, but how it clears your mind and it allows you to see things clear. Like, I just think so often we think it's only changing things in the spiritual when it truly it's stripping the flesh back so the spirit can come forward. And
Yes.
that's the power.
Yes.
That's the power in it. And like I told Liam yesterday too, I was thinking about things like the keto diet, and I've never done any of those, but I know people who have. And I feel like when they strip their bodies of some of those things,
Mm.
they'll say, like, I have a clearer mindset. And so it's like all the time you find out that God and all of the science goes hand in hand.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful thing. Like, turns out here, spoiler alert, God knows what he's doing.
He
Like,
knows what he's doing. Yeah.
well, but just think about how much, just day in and day out in our lives, we are always relying on the physical and the emotional and the mental. And I think there's a whole kind of realm to Christianity. And like, I feel an episode coming on here a little bit later down the road.
Oh,
But there's this whole realm of Christianity, of spirituality, and almost like I don't want to go too far with this, but almost like a mysticism that we just kind of
yeah.
push off to the side. And I think fasting, because you're kind of like body slamming your physical and your emotions and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, it's making you rely on the spiritual in a way that we're just not practiced doing that, right, in our daily life.
And it makes me wonder if, now this is not the case for everybody, but then I start to think, is that some of the reason that we don't experience
Mm.
some of the things that Jesus promised? You will do things that are greater than this. And maybe that's why we miss some of it. I feel like maybe back then they were a little more practiced in those things.
Yeah.
It was more normalized to fast. Um,
Well,
and
it's
ha-
certainly part of, yeah, I think it was a much bigger part of the culture
yeah,
because there were some religious calendar events similar to what I just talked about earlier in the episode with Ramadan, that where it was kind of like built in. No, this is what you're
Yeah.
going to do this week, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have that Old Testament calendar mentality anymore in the modern church.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I just think this is a tool, as I said earlier, that we just leave by the wayside and we just don't make use of it because it's
Oh,
not
for
fun.
sure.
It's not a fun
No.
tool to use.
No. And I feel like I touched on this in one episode recently that we God is beautiful, God is love, we have all of this, and I do think we should preach that and we should preach God's grace, but
Yes.
ultimately serving God is not an easy thing, and it is a
No.
sacrifice. There's no, the Bible never said it was easy. In fact, the path is narrow. It's not easy for most
Deny
people.
yourself, take up your cross, follow me. That
Yep.
ain't, yeah.
No, it's not easy, and it's one of those things. It's like if that doesn't work for you,
Yeah,
um I don't want to say it's not for you because it's for everybody, but if that
it
doesn't
is.
work for you, you may just have to change some of your mindset. I mean,
Well,
something, and
it
fix some things.
causes you to discipline yourself. Like that's a key part of Christianity that again we don't necessarily talk about all the time because it's not super fun. Like I'm a disciplined person, it's like
No, no.
it's not fun to share about, but man, it's critical
Well,
in
and
terms of you following after Jesus.
isn't it crazy too? Like you think of New Year's and everybody goes into the New Year's, like you want to be disciplined. I think in our heart of hearts, we all want to be disciplined.
We
There
do,
are goals that we have,
we do.
and God is telling us and trying to teach us to be disciplined because he knows ultimately it's going to make our life better.
Yes.
It's hard and it sucks lots of times, but that's what makes our life better and more fulfilling. That to
Yep.
me is amazing.
Shouts out
That's
to episode 1, by the way.
shout out to episode 1. That's right. Go ahead and
Hey,
share that one if you can.
let me ask you a question. So Jesus is in the wilderness for 40 days, kind of establishing his baseline. He has not publicly done anything yet. He's getting ready to.
Yeah.
Do you find it at all interesting that Satan came at the end of the 40 days? Is there something there, or am I reading too much into it, that like the weakness in Jesus's physical body not like allowed Satan to show up, but that it came at the end of that, and that's not some kind of coincidence. That's what was going
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it was
Okay.
purposeful. I mean, you think of back to Elijah when he was saying he was ready to die. What did the angel tell him to do? To eat and to sleep.
True.
That was what helped him. And so I feel like when Jesus was there at his weakest, um, the devil tried to come in and to tempt him because he thought I could get away with more. But then it takes me to think like, so is there just spiritual clarity? Like, I guess if you're fasting, there it is a pool. It is a back and forth of
I think
like,
so.
spiritually, you'll feel this level of clarity. You may hear God more clearly, but there's still this weakness that
There is
surrounds
a
it, right?
weakness. Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that I'm sure listeners are not getting this picture in their head. Fasting is not some kind of superpower tool. Like Jesus goes out in the wilderness and he's like, you know what I mean? And there's like energy
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
out of the earth and he's like powering up, getting ready to go do his ministry. It's almost the opposite of that. You're killing the flesh so that your spirit can be the lead thing. And so it's a weird quote unquote superpower because it hurts our bodies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a negative thing for our bodies, but it's all about letting that spirit come out and lead us. I think that's the key.
I agree with that. And I think growing up, and even sometimes now, I feel like it should be this power. We had a bad storm yesterday, for example. So I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking yesterday, while fasting, I was thinking, okay, I've got to fast and pray that we're protected. And if I don't fast, and we're not, like that was a thought that went through my mind. If we don't
Right.
fast, then I may not be protected. And I don't know. I could be wrong about this, but I don't know if that's the purpose of fasting. It's not like I'll fast and God gives me something, or I'll fast and then that means this person will be healed.
I think the scripture
What do you
that
think?
comes from is they're unable to. It's the disciples are unable to cast that demon out of the person, and Jesus he kind of gets frustrated with him, and he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
listen, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting." And so I think we turn that into like fasting's like a lever to get God to do what we want him to do. I don't think fasting's supposed to be a lever because
I don't
God's not a
either.
genie. I think fasting is about us getting in line with God, right? And if we're in
Oh,
line
okay.
with God and we're following him more closely, well then the demon's going to it's about us. It's not about God. God's always the same and he's always perfect. It's about us getting closer to God.
I think that's a narrative that, and maybe it's not that way for everyone else, but I feel like that was a narrative in my mind that has to change. or has had to change. But I feel like a church as a whole, that is the narrative, that it's a lever or it's a sword that's like
Yeah.
defeating things, and
You're going to
it's not.
fast and you're going to be like
Yeah.
shooting lasers out of your eyes and like blowing stuff up. Yeah. That's not what it's for. It's about you
Yeah.
getting closer to Jesus.
Or getting postured for something. Like I
Yeah.
think fasts at the beginning of the year that churches will do,
Yeah.
it's about being postured
Yeah.
to do the work. Then you still have to, that the fasting isn't the work or the sword. The fasting is the preparation. Oh, that could preach. The fasting is the preparation.
Well, you're hinting at it, and I don't know how far into detail you're going to go on this, and I can
You
share my
just,
own
yeah, I was gonna
personal
say,
fasting stuff too. But I feel like when whatever your regular fasting time is, you have a tremendous list of things that you do in the church. And again, I don't think fasting is like you're putting your hands up to the heavens and God's going to strike you with lightning and then you can like do things better. It's like disciplining you for no, I got to climb this hill with my cross and I got to go climb that hill with my cross. None of it's glamorous. None of
no,
it's not shareable on Instagram. It's like the dirty, gritty part of being
it
a
is.
Christian. And this is the tool that gets us ready to go do those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's fantastic. So, like, let's talk a little bit more about those benefits
Okay. Yeah.
of fasting and what comes from that. You've said something along these lines that it's about resetting. It's like hitting the reset button
Mm-hmm.
for your spirit, and it allows you to make space for what matters. It gives you clarity and discipline. And we know that Jesus fasted before he made any sort of major decisions. He was fasting. So
Mm-hmm.
we know all of this. Do you feel that in your life? Like, do you feel when you fast that you receive a level of clarity?
I have a I have a regular fasting habit in my life. So
Yeah.
it's not like 24 hours after I fast, like I see into the spirit world and I see the angels and the deep. It's not that to me,
Yeah.
but I do. Again, I think it's about building that discipline muscle.
Yeah.
Do you know that chick on? I think it's on Netflix. It's like Marie Kondo. Isn't she the one that's like spark joy and like throw it away if it doesn't spark joy for you? Do I have her name wrong?
I don't know. The name, it sounds familiar.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's like the lady that like goes in your closet and she's like, "Does this spark joy for you?" Nope, we're
Oh,
gonna get
oh,
rid of it.
oh, yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
think so.
I okay, this is really dumb, but I think fasting is like the Marie Kondo of spiritual disciplines.
Okay.
It's kind of like makes you reflective and you go into your spiritual closet and you're like, "Whoa, what is that doing in here? I need to get that out. I need to be gone." There is something powerful about the fact that you are hungry. And that is such a base level
Yes.
human thing.
Yes.
You want that orange chicken, you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So good.
And that's a base level human thing. And for you to reject that, it
Yeah.
allows you, you keep talking about this clarity thing. It allows you to look at yourself with a more open lens because
Yeah.
you're already kind of tearing yourself down. And so you're like, whoa, what is that in my spiritual closet? I gotta get that out of here. That's not sparking any joy for me.
Well, and when you feel disciplined in one, for me, when I feel disciplined in one area of my life, I feel like it pours into other areas of my life. Like when I
Yes.
feel
Yes.
in control or like I'm disciplined here, I just can make decisions differently. Um, I don't know if it gives me this idea of like feeling more adult, or I think it's just literally I feel more disciplined so then I can control other areas of my life better. So I think there's
Well,
power in that.
we
Or
keep talking spiritually, but I think that the spiritual, as you just said, I think it leaks over into the behavioral. So
mm-hmm.
again, that root level of I am hungry. No, I'm not going to eat breakfast. I am hungry. No, I'm not going to eat lunch. I'm going to do this on purpose. Allows you the spine, we'll just call it the quote unquote spiritual
Sure.
spine to stand up. And when you need to say, no, I'm not going to participate in that. No, I'm not going to spread that gossip. Nope, I'm not.
Yes.
Something that's tempting to you, and you're able to stand up and say no to it because you said no to the orange chicken earlier that day.
100%. 100. I completely agree with that. I do think also it brings a level of intimacy with God
Yes.
because, like you said earlier, um, you're kind of stripping back the one thing that keeps us alive, eating. You're stripping that away, and so there's a level of intimacy and a raw level with God that I do think can only be reached through that,
Yes.
which I find interesting. And then I also think spiritual warfare, which is something I would love to dive into and talk
I
about
feel
at
another
some point.
episode coming on. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I do think, again, you're pulling back the curtains of something into this spiritual area. When I fast, I just feel this clarity and this
Mm-hmm.
openness in the
Mm-hmm.
spirit and this
Mm-hmm.
connection with God. And I do believe it gives you the opportunity to fight spiritually in prayer. So the fasting may not be the sword or
Right.
that it may not be that, but the prayer, then you're able to pray in different ways because the curtain is pulled back.
Well, we know this is 100% true, at least
Yeah.
in the case of Daniel. There's that spot in Daniel where Daniel writes in his book, he's praying, and Michael is held back from answering his prayer by basically demons that are fighting against him. I don't
Yeah.
know what that
Yeah.
looks like. They're just like midair, just swinging at each other. I'm
Movie
not
theater.
exactly sure. Yeah.
Movie
Oh, yes,
theater.
movie theater. Good call. Always. That's going to be the answer for everything.
Yep.
But like, yeah, no, I think it. I hesitate to use this because I don't want, again, it's like you're generating energy from God and you're more powerful or something. But I do think it supercharges your prayers. And that's
Yes.
real, right?
Yes.
Satan's kingdom he is 100% fighting against your prayers. And sometimes they need a little boost.
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but it's biblical. It's right there laid out in front of us.
And you can't argue that. That's the
No.
thing. It's biblical. If you believe the Bible, it is there.
I mean, it is word for word right in there.
Word for word
Yeah.
there. Now, there are all different types of fasting. And I want to start off with, well, there are different types of fasting we know in the Bible. The only type of fasting that's talked about is food.
Oh, wait.
And,
You can
what,
kick me. You can kick me. I'm so sorry. I wanted to read some scriptures right here.
oh, yeah, go back and do that.
It's okay. You didn't have them, which is totally fine. These are some of the most powerful scriptures in the Bible to me, and I
Yeah, tell me.
very rarely hear them shared. Um, Let me see.
You've got them there.
Where are they?
Well, okay, let me say this while you're finding those. When it comes to fasting, I do feel like in my own life that I have been able to use fast outside of just like a full day food fast.
Yeah. Okay.
To help grasp that discipline. Like I went on an extended fast for ice cream, which is so silly. I've done it twice.
It's not silly. That's the real stuff right there. Not eating ice
That's
cream.
what I'm telling you. If you haven't seen it's on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, it's everywhere
You
actually. Yeah.
okay? You got to watch the video of Matt eating the ice cream. Which, if you don't know anything about us, you need to know that we both love ice cream. Shout out Yellen Allens. Grace, if you're listening, shout out Grace. You got those scriptures?
I do have those
Okay.
scriptures. So this is like a dialogue between God and his people in Isaiah 58. And this is God addressing his people. This is such powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It says, "Is not this the fast that I chose?" God talking. Listen what he does here: to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? And when you see the naked, to cover them and to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then here's what's going to happen for you. Shall your light break forth like the dawn? Your healing shall spring forth up speedily. I got goosebumps. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Does God honor this tool? Go read Isaiah chapter 58. That is some of the most powerful stuff in all the Bible. That's what God's going to do with this tool.
And you think about like breaking yokes, really tearing down generational things. I mean, we have these things, that those besetting sins, we have these things that are rooted deep in us. This is the out. This is the out. This is the
if
discipline.
If you are a Christian and you are not using this tool, and I will just be the first one to tell you, this tool is not fun. But if you are not using this tool, you are out of your mind.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I mean, it tells you right there.
God is literally telling his people, here's what I'm going to do. I don't know how you can be clearer than that.
No, it's not the stock answer anymore.
I'm not even totally sure I understand what the glory of the Lord being your rear guard means, but it's great.
I don't know what a rear guard is. Just
I'm pretty sure
guard your rear.
It's like yeah. It's a military situation. God got your back. Yeah.
Okay. Right. That's all the information we need to know.
That's it.
Right there and then. So I do want to talk about these different types.
Yes, of course.
And I mentioned the one that I did where it was just a portion of food. But biblically, the two that I can think of, and you may know more here, are complete fast and then the Daniel. I always want to call it the Danielson fast, but it's not, because Danielson, I think, comes from Danielson model, which is teaching.
It's a teaching thing.
It's just the Daniel fast.
No,
right?
It's our good buddy Daniel that I referenced a couple minutes ago about the prayers being held up by the demons. Yes, Daniel fast.
Okay, so I want to touch on that really quick. Have you done the Daniel
I
fast?
have done the Daniel
I
fast.
attempted
Yes.
it once and didn't
14
finish it.
days. I stopped.
Well,
I'll
what
just
is
be
the
honest.
significance and like why did he choose those foods? Do you know?
Well, it's specifically because he's with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they're in the court of the Persians, and there's all this food that's available to them, but some of it's been sacrificed to idols. And Daniel's like, okay, no, we're not eating
Mm.
that. And so he's like, just give it the biblical words are like pulse and water. So it's basically like fruit, veggies, and water. And then they give it to him for 2 weeks, and they come back, and Daniel and his buddies look better than the king's guys. And so that's where the genesis of the Daniel fast comes from, is you're just choosing specific foods to eat rather than just eating what you want.
So could you make the argument that like for me with ice cream, if that has
Yeah.
become not that it's an idol in my life, but definitely it was I felt more controlled by that. You know what I mean? Not like I was
Yeah.
controlled by ice cream, but I was
No,
more
sure.
controlled by that food than I should have been by cutting that off. Could
Yeah.
that have been my Daniel fast? I mean, it's not the Daniel fast, but could it be
No, I think you could
parallel?
easily make the argument that if like Facebook is taking up all your time, fast Facebook, this type of social interaction is taking up all your time. Fast that style of social interaction. Yeah, I think the principle is there underneath it, that
Yeah.
all this is available to me. Not all of it's good, so I'm gonna only do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that applies to almost anything.
And so when I'm teaching, when we talk about it in the youth group, we talk about just kind of shortening the time. Like it's not always a whole day because
Sure.
lots of times, especially when you're first starting, it needs to be something shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk at like 8 to 3 or 8 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God honors that,
Of
correct?
course. Of course. It's a
Yeah, there's still
muscle. This is a
significance.
muscle that's got right. You don't start a prayer life and go for 2 hours, right? You
No,
start and you build, and that's part of your journey with God. I absolutely think he honors that stuff.
I do think it's important that whatever time you choose to fast, um, the older I get, the more I'm like, you have to have time to pray during that because I've
Yeah.
had a lot of times I've been at work and I may fast, but by the time I get home, I'm eating or something and I didn't pray. And it's like, okay, well, I just skipped a meal, you know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like, I think there has to be prayer with it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just feel like skipping a meal is just skipping a meal.
Yeah, I mean, there's some medical reasons why people might do that. This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
more than just I'm doing this to lose weight or whatever. Although that may happen on the side. That may just be a side benefit that you get because our bodies respond to that kind of
Which
stuff.
is most of what stuff in the Bible does. Again, it goes hand in hand with our health, our
Mhm.
spiritual, like all of that
Body, mind,
works
spirit, it all works together. Yeah.
100%. Do you know of any other types of fasting that are important to address or talk about?
Nope. I mean, you hit them. Just a full cold turkey, just water fast, and then the Daniel fast, which I like how you spun that into. That's where you can kind of have your biblical principle for I'm fasting ice cream, I'm fasting Facebook, like these things that are not they're not exactly biblical, but that
Yeah,
principle's there because of the Daniel fast. I like that a lot.
yeah. So let's talk about some practical tips to
Okay.
make this work. Um, my first practical tip is if you're fasting something like specific, like ice cream or social media, or you're cutting
Mm-hmm.
something out that's taking control, what helps me is after I get past one day, this may sound silly, but saying, okay, there's one day. If I can do one day, I can do 2 days. If I can do
Yeah.
2 days, and then once it's a week, I'm like, you know what? I could make this a 3 week fast. And then at that point, I'm just on a roll. And I'm still, every time that ice cream comes into my mind, I'm praying when that happens. So it may
Mm-hmm.
not be getting on my knees, but I'm still interchanging those thoughts for prayer. So
I love
that's
that.
one practical method for me that helps me keep on track.
Yeah.
What do you use?
Mine is the way I count a day. So I have always done this.
Okay.
The days I fast, I will eat dinner, and then I'll go until the next day for dinner. So I've gone 24 hours, and I
That's
count
so
that
smart.
as a day, and then in between there. I agree with you. I do think that fasting gets easier with keeping a rhythm with it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like prayer, right? When you pray
Yeah.
every day, you get better at it. So I do have a weekly fasting habit, and I'm not going to tell you that it's easy every week, but
Yeah.
my body has adjusted to it in some ways that has kind of blunted like you may be sitting here listening to this thinking I can't go 5 minutes without food. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But you kind of grow that discipline and your body adjusts to it. And so I liken it to like you don't have to like conquer the mountain in one step. You're just gonna slowly take steps up the mountain. I like how you said if I can do one day, Now I'm going to do
Yeah.
2 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's perfect.
And are you specific about like what you can eat or what you can drink? Like, do you let yourself drink coffee? Do you let yourself drink tea?
I do. I do. I drink water. I mostly just drink water anyway. So, like, basically during the day, I drink water. I usually have some decaf coffee in the morning. I'll let
Yeah.
myself do that. But everything else, I pretty much try to stay away from.
Okay. I think you've read this book too. For those that haven't, it's just called Fasting.
Hmm.
Is his name Jettison?
I think you
Jentison?
pronounce it Jensen Franklin is how I've heard it.
Well, I am a teacher and can't read somebody's name, so
It's
whatever.
it's a weird one.
It is a weird one, but this book is absolutely excellent.
Hmm.
Breaks down everything with fasting. I wanted to read off a couple things that he says that are
Okay, great.
practical. A couple of those are if you're going on an extended fast, don't gorge yourself a couple days before. Don't think, oh my gosh, I'm
Okay.
going to fast, so I'm going to eat, 8
Yeah.
cakes the night before. He also talks about drinking at least 1 gallon of purified water throughout the day, and it being purified. The importance of that is um, fasting already strips you of the impurities in your body. That's why a lot of times you get a headache is because your body
Hmm.
is it's having a detox. And
You
so
detox it from caffeine and all the other junk. Yeah.
you do all of the nasty preservatives and things like that we put in our body. So purified water, and he likens it to a spring cleaning for your body. That's what
Hmm.
he says
Hmm.
fasting
Yeah.
is. So I think those are some really good practical things. I also used to tell my grandma I was fasting. I know you're not supposed to like go around and share it and tell everybody, but I would tell her because I did feel like she would hold me accountable in a way that was like I could call and say, Granny, I'm fasting, call her later and say, hey, I made it through the day. So I
Well,
think it's just,
this was actually the last practical thing I was going to say.
mhm,
I think it's great if you want to start like a fasting habit or start using this tool. I think
yeah,
it'd be great for you to pair up with somebody else because the Bible does talk about like not being a whiner and not just like wailing all the time and letting
yeah,
everybody know
yeah,
that you're fasting because God said like, okay, well, there's your reward. Congratulations.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But I think if you pair up with somebody in confidence, and I think it'd be perfectly fine to send them a text, be like, "Man, I'm really hungry right now,"
yeah,
and you just kind of work each other through that,
yep.
like this: iron sharpens iron.
Iron sharpens iron. That is so good. So the conclusion with this is, does it work? Does this
Yeah,
make a difference? I can speak to yes, for me, it
hundred
does.
percent.
And biblically, it's clear.
Yep,
There's no question about it. And if you're not doing it, I encourage you to do it. Try
yep,
it out.
yep.
Um, and if you
I'm glad
need,
that you asked this question, but you didn't need to ask this question. Does it work? Yes. Does
yes,
God honor it? Yes. Does God bless it? Yes. Will it change
yes.
you? Yes. Yes. It just
Will
does.
there be
It's
things
in the
that are
Bible.
released? Yes, a
Yes.
hundred percent. These things get
100%.
changed. These things make us better. Before we go today,
Hmm.
we don't usually do segments at the end, but I am going to say testimony,
Oh, great.
testimony, whatever day, testimony Monday when you guys hear this. So
Yeah.
yesterday there was a big storm in Mount Vernon, and it was supposed to be the one of our lifetime. So I did what I do, and I was nervous about it, but I have come to this conclusion, and I almost feel like emotional even talking about this part. I was and have been convicted about David and Goliath, and that this is my Goliath. This
Mm,
storm is my Goliath. And I feel like David in that instance, where all I have is a slingshot and stones
mm.
while I'm looking at this storm. That's what I feel like. My husband challenged me on this whenever I teased about how he was like, Hannah, we're going to get through this. We're going to do this. I
Yeah.
was challenged in that because I'm like, yeah, yeah, if I'm a believer, I will not live in this. And so yesterday I kept encouraging myself, this is my Goliath. It's not easy to stand before Goliath,
Mm.
but I'm going to do it anyway. So I did really, really, really well. I sat
Good.
outside majority of the time.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
you
We
had that
went to
real
the
grandma
basement.
watching the storm on the porch energy. I love that for
I
you.
did. It was awesome. So I was on the phone, which is not unusual for me to talk on the phone lots of time anyway, while Liam was finishing up work. And then we ended up going to the basement because the sirens went off.
Yeah, of course.
My mom called and told me even, there was some rotation that was supposed to be, they were tracking right above like my area, Rome grade
Hmm.
school. I
Hmm.
guess I shouldn't shout that out, but right in that area. And I didn't freak out.
Good.
I was nervous,
Yeah.
but I fully believe that I am with faith and God's power, I am overcoming that giant. So thank you for all the listeners
Yeah.
that have heard this and that I do believe have said even just a slight prayer. because that's my testimony for today.
Well,
And
that's
with,
great.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead,
I was just going to say, I was going to give everybody a little secret about Christianity and God. Most things are incremental victories. You can have a
Yes,
complete
yes,
victory in the altar, and I will never take that away from God's ability to do that. But most things, like fasting, like prayer, they stack on top of each other, and so it's going to be a minute before
it
you
is.
are in Molly's car chasing down a storm somewhere over on the side, right? It's going to be a second, but that's a small victory. The next time you're going to build
Yeah,
and build and build, and that's most of the time that's how God works
yeah.
because that's
That's
how humans
deliverance.
work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have to rejoice in that. So those of you listening, thank you for rejoicing with us. We are excited for what's coming next week, and thank you for joining us. We always enjoy going beyond Sundays and hope that you enjoyed the conversation today. If you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, if you have any prayer requests, please reach out to us at beyondsundayspod.com. That's where our links are. You can also reach out to us on our socials. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you.
Molly, stay out of the yard.